It's going to be a 3. It's going to be a 3. Can you see my screen to start with? Okay, so hopefully you can hear me and hopefully you can see my screen. If you have any issues, I'm watching VC text on a different device, so I can answer any questions and see any comments that you may put in. So I think what I'm going to do is just do a quick run through the hero tower, explain the different areas that you're looking at and how to maximize the potential from your summons. Hopefully you all know some of this, but hopefully I can sort of clear up any queries that you may have. And obviously, if you have any questions as we go along, you can ask them, and then we'll have a look at the actual heroes themselves and where they're best placed. Obviously, we have some hero recommendations that were done by Tips, and they are quite thorough in that you can look at them and think about how much you're willing to spend, and then pick out the hero recommendation that works for your budget. Some people may want to sort of go all out, like Dark or Merca, and there will be some people like me who don't want to spend anything, and there are recommendations that sort of cover each spend category, hopefully, in a realistic way for everybody. So that's what I'm going to do. So we'll start off with the hero tower itself. Let me just take off that. So the hero tower, when you enter it, the first thing that you'll see is the heroes that you have unlocked, and then underneath are the heroes that you still sort of haven't unlocked. And I've just realised I've unlocked one hero that I didn't even realise I had. So he will now go up into this bracket, and there he is. And they are in level order. So your highest hero goes at the top all the way down to the lowest hero at the bottom. And if you have some heroes which are partially filled with a bit of XP, they sort of jump up the list a bit. So yeah, you can actually manipulate the order that they show in. So you may have noticed that before my Jane was prioritized above Arya, and that's because Jane is a Marcher hero. So I had the little heart. You can sort of tap on that heart, and when it goes red like that, you'll see he pops to the top of your list. So you can prioritize heroes in that way, and that helps you manage them, and it helps you, rather than having to scroll through the whole list, you can prioritize the heroes that you want to upgrade, or the heroes that you want to be prioritized when you go to a march. So if I go to march, you'll see my Jane is the first one that pops in there, as opposed to anything else, and that's because he has the little heart symbol. It's not perfect. It does glitch out occasionally, and when you're using presets, it doesn't always work. But technically, if you have the heart on 4 different Marcher heroes, they will be prioritized when you are sending out marches, and they will be prioritized on the screen. So put a heart on him. Heart on him. And put a heart on. Let's see if this works. So you can see that Benjamin's come up next, Rob next, and Thoros next. So that's how you manage your preset priorities. Obviously, if you're using 2 troop types, it's a bit harder to juggle because you can't just select 4 and just hope that and have those 4 prioritized. It will prioritize them in level order. So you can see 25, 20. So if I went for, say, let's say Gendry, which is an infantry hero, if he wasn't in council, he would pop up in my marcher suggestions before Rob, which if I was Cav and infantry but only sending Cav, that would be a bit of an issue for me, so I would want to unsuck him while I was using Cavs, and then redo the selections when using infantry. Check. Massively. Yeah, okay. So in the summon screen, sorry, can somebody mute their VC because I can hear typing?
É, que tu pula.
Okay, sorry, I muted somebody because I could hear the typing, sorry. If you have any questions, do use VC chat or ask me to unmute and I will. So in the summons, you have 3 different types of summons. You have the standard summons, you have the noble summons, and then you have the royal summons. The only summons you can buy are the noble summons. And I don't have any packs up on offer for some reason. That's great. So it's weird. It must be up on my Android for some reason. So you get, every day you get 1 free summon, and that happens at midnight UTC, I think. And if you finish your daily quest, you actually get enough seals to do 1 free summon and a bit change spare for another summon. And what I do is that I tend to save them up till an event, and then I'll just do the 10 summon one. If you want a green hero, then I would recommend using the ×1 summon, because by going for the ×10, you are automatically removing the chance of one of your relics being green, because when you're doing 10 in one go like that, they're guaranteeing you a rare relic, which means that you're not getting the green relics that you want, or I think it's blue relics that you want. Yeah, so it's not getting you the green relics that you want if you are going for green. So if you want your hot pie, you're doing the 1 time summon. If you want your Jon Snow or your Robs, you're doing your 10 times summon. Always check the little eye buttons, if you can see that on the top right hand side of that little box, and it will tell you what heroes are available under that summon. So if I wanted Rob, you can see under rare, Rob isn't available under this section. So I would come out, go into the other one, and you can see he is there at 3.6%. So if I wanted Rob, I would want to do the summons that has Rob in. If I wanted hot pie, I would do the summons that had hot pie. And you need to do that with every summons you want. So if you are going for the Rhaegar and Duran, of course they are featured, so the sort of flash green bit of it shows those 2 heroes, and the same again with Barristan and Tyrion. But if you go down into them, actually the mythic heroes and the heroic heroes are all different for them. So again, you need to check those, make sure the hero you want is actually in that combination before you carry on. And every time you do noble summons, it gives you royal summons, and once you collect enough to do the royal summons, it's the same thing again. Go in there, make sure that the hero you want is featured before you carry on. Okay, any questions on that aspect first? Okay, so Dark's shaking his little cat head. So if we go into the actual heroes themselves, you can see that there are two different types of stats. You have signature skills, and these are stats that increase with the level of your hero. So my James is 25, he's 15%. If I get him to 26, he'll be at 16%, and that is just that one that I'm highlighting right now. And the same goes with march size. The march size goes up with level. And you can see it goes up with level as well. The star skills are actually fixed stats. These unlock once you hit that level. So at level 10, you will unlock 33%. That 33% won't change whether you reach level 60 or whether you stay at level 10. It's a static 33%. The little icon at the start of each skill tells you where that skill is active. So if you have this little flag, that means that that skill is only active when you send the hero with your march. If you have this little table of chairs sort of boardroom type icon, that hero is only active when it's in your council. So every hero has this sort of setup, all different stats, different icons, depending on where it goes, and obviously an explanation of what the stats are. Just give me a second to find the recommendations to make it easier rather than actually thinking off the top of my head. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, do give a shout out. Okay, I think actually one of the easiest things for me to do is going to be to actually show you the recommendations themselves to explain them. Yeah. So each troop type has its own set of recommendations. We have an article for each one, and I'll go through all the articles. I'll go through all the articles with you, and just to explain how the recommendations work. You have low spender and medium spender recommendations, but then you also have separate high spender recommendations. The low spender recommendations apply to sort of an overall usage because the assumption is you're not going to be making different heroes for different purposes. The high spender recommendations have a set of recommendations for attacking and then a different set of recommendations for defense. And it all depends on how much money you want to put into this feature. It is an expensive feature. Getting a orange hero to 60, I believe, is something like £7,000 to £10,000, depending on your luck. obviously while you're doing that, you're also collecting relics for other heroes, but you still need to buy the XP and the oaths for those other heroes on top. So it's not a cheap feature by any means, and it does depend on what your budget is. So starting with the Infantry Council, you can see that we've got Cersei at level 20, and what I'll do is I'll swap between my account and the recommendation so you can actually see what the Cersei level 20 is. So for infantry, Cersei level 20 is some defense versus players cavalry. And the relevance of this is if we go into council, there aren't really that many useful council heroes for infantry. Rhaegar is completely cavalry based in council. His marcher stats, I'll show you in a minute, are actually really good for infantry. Edison is, as you can see, cavalry based. He's not that good anyway. He's not a hero that I would recommend investing too much in. Daenerys is, yeah, she's got that dragon infantry health stat, but really her council stats aren't that great. And I've already sort of touched on her non-council stats previously, say that I don't really rate those either, especially that dragon attack. Dragon attack is just really quite a useless stat. It does work, it's just really low impact. So it's not a hero that I would recommend investing too much in. So let's go back and have a look at Cersei. So she has that infantry defense versus players cavalry. She also has that bonus reinforcement capacity at stop. So if you're holding a seat, she's a really valuable hero to have. She's also great for cavalry because she's got that cav health. And then you also have a bit further down, if you're willing to spend that much, cav attack versus range. And a generic, as you're getting there, generic troop health versus player. But for infantry low spender, that's just the £100 introduction pack that happened when she was first released, which isn't really that much for 24% stats. You'd spend a lot more than that trying to get 24% stats out of enhancements or out of research. And that's the sort of comparison that we're making when we're doing these recommendations. So the next one is Podrick. Now he is a really difficult hero to get because he is green. You can't buy the standard summons, and he can only be achieved by getting standard summons. He's 24% infantry defense versus infantry. In the meantime, he's actually pretty useful because he's got the training speed, so he's reducing your training costs while you're building him up. Don't think there are any other interesting heroes for infantry in this slot. Let's have a look at what the options are. So Jaime is ranged and cavalry, Arya is all cavalry, and Rob is all cavalry. So yeah, so your only option there is Podrick for infantry. The next one is Gendry, and Gendry is a really good hero for your budget players who want some bonus skill crafting efficiency. He's also really good for infantry because of this infantry defense versus ranged. And it's a really valuable stat because infantry are struggling so much on the defense side. Having the versus range stat as a multiplier sort of makes up for that lack of defense a bit, especially since I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, especially since infantry is weak to ranged, so closing off that weakness is a really useful thing to have. If you are planning to spend a bit more, you can go for Marjorie for the steel crafting efficiency. Infantry only really need Gendry at 10, but this steel crafting efficiency for Marjorie is at level 40, which isn't what we would class as budget level to achieve. So that's why we say push Gendry instead of Marjorie if you are a low to mid spender. And then you can have a look at the other heroes in this category, and they are range based. And actually, if you come back to the new hero, Duran, again, he is predominantly range based, and he goes into that same category as well. Okay, so that's that one. The next one, let's have a look. So we've got in the budget category Varys, and now I think a lot of people think he is a camp hero. Why is he being recommended for infantry? And the simple reason is that dragon health bonus. Even getting him to sort of level 20 gives you a bit of a boost on dragon health. I think the new gear sort of makes him a bit more redundant now, because whether your health is 3 million or 5 million or 6 million, you're probably going to be killed in one shot if you're reinforcing a seat. And if you're attacking a seat with dragons in, again, you're probably going to be killed in one shot because of the saves, because of the high burns, because of this new armory, which is dragon attack versus dragon for the Tawny Queen armory. And then some people be reinforcing with simply one troop and dragon and have the Tawny Queen dragon attack versus dragon gear, which will basically one-shot most dragons. That. See, go back to where we began. You hate Discord on my iPad. I swear that Discord is made for Android, not for iOS. It's a pain. So yeah, so going back to Varys. So again, if you look at the options to replace him with, you've got Jaqen, which is ranged at low level, Tyrion, who is completely utility until level 50, this guy who is Siege, and Shay. So there's not really any sort of infantry options for the Whispers bot. The next one is going to be the Master of Laws, and the recommendation here is Hot Pie, and you can see that at level 10 he has 24% health, and he is the one that I would totally recommend for infantry. There is also Jon Snow. He's pretty easy to get, to be honest, because you get free relics from him from the daily collections. So if you want that, so there you go, you get sort of like 2 every 2 weeks, 2k every 2 weeks. So that's quite nice. He adds up pretty quickly. Let me see how many relics I have for him. Yeah, so I already have 35k for him. I've not upgraded him, so he's sort of halfway to level 30 for me. Some people who are pushing hard on events will have him a lot further advanced. So yeah, Lancel is Siege, and then Missandei is march size and cavalry. So Hot Pie to me is the easiest low-level stat to get. His health, infantry struggle with defense and health, so that's a nice stat for them. Jon Snow has the perks of infantry attack, but it's not really much given that infantry gets so much anyway from gear and armory and other places. So I would definitely stick to Hot Pie for that one. Master of Ships is completely ranged, so I wouldn't even bother sort of putting too much effort into here. I got my Hordor to level 10 just because it gives a bit of troop load, so if I want to shove them in a march when farming keeps, it just makes things a little bit easier. And then you get that bonus defense versus creatures if you shove him in council. But he's not one that you want to sort of spend loads of XP or oaths on, just do what you want, what you have spare on. And then in the Lord Commander slot, this one is a bit trickier. So Eddard is good to start off with, but he only really becomes sort of super excellent at level 50. So you're sort of pushing up his signature stat slowly. But as you can see, it sort of increases really, really slowly to start off with. And it's only around sort of level 30-ish that you get sort of more significant stats. And then when you get to level 40 to 50, you're going from 25 to 40%. So that's quite a big jump at those levels. For March, he's also not that bad, to be honest, because you get the infantry health while marching at level 30, and you also get some march size at level 40. So he's quite an all-round hero, especially while you are working on Grey Worm. So let me show you Grey Worm actual stats. And you can see that Grey Worm is quite a good master hero. He's got the infantry defense versus cavalry. He's then got infantry defense versus range, which we've already said is quite a valuable stat, and an infantry attack versus cavalry, which infantry are made to punish cavalry, so that's a really good stat to have if you can get him that high. While you are waiting to get him to that point, if you have him at level 30, he's actually good to keep in your council while you're waiting to get him to level 40 or 50. So I would put him in council at level 30 to 40 and use Eddard in your march for that infantry health in your march. So that's just sort of playing around, taking them in and out of council depending on their levels and their size. And then the last, let's have a look at what else there is there. Vengeance is all utility. And then the other hero that goes in that slot, I haven't unlocked yet, but that is Barrister. And he is a really good defensive hero if you can max him out. If you can't max him out, I really would not bother working with him. So I wouldn't really sort of think about him too much as a low to medium spender. And then the last slot I have Qyburn in here because he has the dragon attack versus dragons. The rest of his stats are utility, but this stat sort of goes up quite quickly. And then if you have a look at the options for replacing, there aren't really that many options with a troop stat. So you have Maester Luwin, who is Siege, you have Melisande, who has this troop health versus player. But I'll show you in a minute, it's negligible. She's not worth spending on, really, for council stat. And then Thoros is, again, his only relevant stat for combat is this 55% troop health, which works on all your troops. So it's a really good stat to have, especially if you run more than one troop type. But it is a level 60 stat. So again, he is not something for the low to moderate spenders. He is for the big spenders who are going to be maxing out orange heroes. So yeah, so that's infantry. So that's infantry. You can see I've got Eddard in there till 39, Qyburn up to 39. And the reason why we've gone to 39 is because really going over that, you're into big spender territory. And then you have Gendry as the marcher hero for infantry at a low level. And then for, sorry, is somebody trying to speak? Okay. So for big spenders, you're wanting to push Cersei to 20 is your first infantry stat, 40 is troop health, which is a nice stat to have, but really it's that sort of level 60 dragon attack versus dragons that makes all the difference in the world for Cersei. Podrick is the same because, as we saw, there isn't really another infantry hero. Marjorie for bigger spenders at 40. You can still use Gendry in your march if you prefer that. But really, if you are a big spender, you probably want that big steel efficiency from Marjorie. Jaqen, he has a really nice, have a look at it, a really nice troop attack while marching versus player stat at 60, 85%, that is huge. It works for all troops. You also have the dragon troop health on the way there. So that's a really nice stat if you can afford to get that. Keep opening my email, sorry. If you can afford to get there. So that's a really sort of big one to go for. Hot pie, again, there isn't really another infantry option. Again, Hodor isn't really an infantry option in that slot. Eddard, you want to, if you are spending a fair bit, you want to sort of push all the way because that is getting that infantry attack versus players infantry, 49% almost, as well as almost 40% infantry attack while marching. So he's a really good one to have for attacking. And Qyburn for the dragon attack versus player. You don't need to get into 50 because that 50 stat is pretty much useless. And you've got the majority of his stats by the time you get to 49. Alternatively, if you're hitting keeps and you are a big player, you probably would prefer Thoros for troop conservation. And this is where you want sort of Grey Worm as high as possible. Again, because we recommend Grey Worm as a marcher hero, the level 60 stat is a council stat, so you don't need to unlock that, just get him as high as possible without unlocking that level 60 stat. Okay, there's a question in GC text for Grey Worm at level 20 and Forest at level 20 is equal to an arm with train speed and an arm with and cost efficiency, and it's one of the most cost effective to get. Yeah, so that's actually quite a fair point. I was looking at them from a combat perspective rather than from a utility perspective, but they are pretty decent utility heroes to get, and we'll show you. So you have nearly 100% training speed from getting Grey Worm to level 20, which is pretty nice. And then there's stars and favorited him. and another 50% healing cost efficiency. So if you're going for an armory stack, you'd be getting around the same as a 50% healing cost efficiency. You're probably getting sort of something like 50 to 70% depending on your armory level. So that's actually sort of armory level wise. But your grey worm for training speed, if you're getting sort of 50 to 70% depending on your armory, that 100, almost 100% is actually really, really nice. And you unlock that for the £100 starter pack that comes out with them. So that's a fair comment. Thank you, Klaus. Then for defense, again, your Circe is the same, your Podrick is the same, Marjorie is the same, Hotpie is the same, Hodor is the same, but then there are a few changes here that we would suggest. Going for a Tyrion, level 50, unless you are also a Cav user, in which case I would say maybe not bother with Tyrion and go for trying to max out Varys, because he is dual purpose. He is also cavalry stats and dragon health, unless of course you want to do both. If you want to do both, you're free to do both, but just being sort of more cost efficient, Varys does cavalry and dragon health, whereas Tyrion just does the dragon health. The other changes for Defender is going for that Barristan. He, as I mentioned, he is one that you either want to get to level 60 or not bother with at all. And these little dollar signs that are on the heroes actually indicate that. Where there is a dollar sign on the hero, it's a hero that you want to max out. And if you don't max him out, then actually you don't really want to spend too much on him. And the same again for Thoros. If you're defending, that group health is really nice to have. And then we have some exchangeable. So if you don't want to max out Barristan, or you don't want to max out Thoros, you can still use Eddard to inflict as much damage as you can, and Qyburn to inflict as much damage to dragons as you can while defending. So that's the infantry recommendations. Any questions before I go on to the cav or ranged recommendations next? Dark is asking me to mention that there are hero presets coming, so it should be easy coming soon to swap your hero council around. We don't know what it's looking like. He's so happy about this because he's probably got all the heroes and is tired of swapping them around every 5 minutes. So yeah, it's a really nice feature because it allows you to swap around your council in the sort of blink of an eye, rather than having to go in and replace each one individually. So let's put on back. So the next one is ranged. I'm sure you're loving seeing my emails every time I mess up with that. With ranged, there aren't that many budget options really. Circe isn't really useful for a budget spender until it's level 40, which is really beyond a budget spender's budget. And we're sort of making the assumption that if you're a budget spender, you're less likely to be reinforcing, so less likely to be holding seats, because people tend to have bigger players with bigger re-en capacity holding seats. But we do have sort of T4s and alts and volunteers holding seats from time to time. So actually she is useful to have and just do what you can with her. Not really expecting anybody to be spending on Circe as a budget ranged player. Same again with the Master of Wars spot. The only really spot of hero significance in there is going to be Podrick with his training speed title. There's nothing else really that goes in there. And then the next one, and actually there are quite a few options for the Marjorie spot. The Marjorie spot, you can get her really cheaply to level 20 to level 10 and unlock 24% health, which is sort of really nice. You also have Gendry, who has that range defense versus range at level 30. You have Peter Baelish with the range attack versus cavalry at level 20. Again, not too hard a level to achieve, but for 15%, I would rather having Marjorie's health. And then for infantry heavy kingdoms, that range defense versus infantry from Sansa is nice, but again, she will take quite a long time to unlock. So that ranged health from Marjorie is pretty nice as well. For range, you also have the option of Jaqen, and the reason for that is he has a signature skill, which is ranged attack while marching. So that's a really nice stat to have for attacking, just to give you a little bit of boost as a ranged player. And he is one that's sort of for ranged players, sort of working up slowly, is really sort of a good return on investment. What's next? Master of Laws. There isn't really a ranged option for Master for this slot. You can see that Hound is all Cav. We've looked at the Sunday, Lancel, that's infantry. So you've got 2 Cav heroes, 1 siege hero, and 2 infantry heroes. Master of Ships, this is where ranged really shine. So let's have a look. You have Yara, which has this ranged defense versus cavalry. Again, ranges are weak to cavalry, so defense versus cavalry is a great stat to have. One that we really recommend sort of working towards. But while you're getting her to that level, you can also shove Theon in there for 30% range defense, or you can actually use Theon on your march. He's a really good ranged marcher hero, if I can find him, because he again has range defense versus cavalry. So I would probably, at level 10, until you get Yara to 30, have him in your council, because that is 30%, whereas level 10 range defense versus cavalry is only 5%. Once you have Yara at level 30, she should go in your council, and you can use her in your march until that point. So she should go in your council at level 30 plus, and then Theon should be the one that you're pushing up to go in your march. And if you get him to around 30ish, that is 26%, all the way up to 40 odd percent if you max him out. So they are a really good complementary pair of heroes that all ranged players should really be focusing on, these two, the coupling and how they sort of swap in and out of council. Now the other thing with Yara is that she has some really nice ranged marcher stats. So if you're going on the offensive, hitting seats, you want her on your march for that range attack versus cavalry, and you want to build her up to level 50 for that 58% range attack versus infantry. And then what you would do is, if you are defending, Or if you are hitting keeps, you want her in council. And then if you're hitting seats or bombing seats, you want her on the march, and you'll put Theon in council to fill that spot. For ranged, there isn't really a Lord Commander hero at all. You could go and push Barristan, but again, he's a high spender option. You need to max him out to be of any significance. So it's not one that we've even sort of completed the box for, because we've left that empty. And then Qyburn for the Whispers spot. I don't think there is any range stats for. Yeah, there's no range stats for that spot, so we've just gone with the dragon attack versus dragon. So going on to ranged high spender. So again, you want that Cersei pusher up as high as possible. The Jaime, the reason why we suggested Jaime for council is that he has that 80% range defense versus cavalry, which again, I've said how it's a very valuable stat for ranged. The next one is Marjorie. You want to actually take her beyond level 40. So level 40 is that steelcrafting efficiency, which is nearly 200%, absolutely insane. But you also get that 49% ranged attack versus ranged at level 50. So if you are a ranged player who wants to spend a fair bit on heroes, she's a good one to spend on. Let's go back. Miss Sunday is going to be your march size, which is why when you're attacking, she's the best one to go for, because there isn't really another option for range in that spot. And then Jaqen, you're just pushing him as high as possible, maxing out that ranged attack while marching signature, and if possible, unlocking that 85% troop attack stat. When you're attacking seats, I've already mentioned, you want Arya maxed and in your march. When you're attacking keeps, you want her in council, Theon in your march. Sorry, Yara in council, Theon in your march. And then you want Arya as the second marcher hero, because she has that health while marching, and then 68% range attack while marching versus player, which is huge as a marcher hero. And then the usual Qyburn, level 49, just max out that dragon attack stat. And then for defense, it's a similar changes to infantry. We're going for Theon instead of Jaqen. Jaqen is all while marching stats, so his attack doesn't give you any value when you're defending. So that's why you want Tyrion in that spot. Again, if you are a Cav player, or if you don't want to max out Tyrion, you can go for Varys instead. Big spend, again, Barristan, and again, Thoros, and you can swap Thoros for Qyburn on if you're not willing to go all the way up to 60 on that. And defenders will want Theon in their march, just to give that added defense versus cavalry. So the next one is Cav heroes. So I didn't look at Duran is the new hero that was released today, and he's actually a decent sort of ranged hero for seat of power play, but I personally don't think, for the expense that an orange hero costs to get up to level 50, where he becomes mildly significant for ranged players, I don't think he is worth the cost when you have such an excellent hero in that slot anyway. Marjorie is, she's just really good to have. So you get that ranged health, and then you get the ranged attack at level 50, and then you get the bonus 200% melee steel crafting efficiency, which is really, really a really good hero to have, and especially for ranged players, because she is sort of dual purpose, whereas any other player would have to sort of go for her as a utility hero rather than a combat hero. But I personally don't think Rhaegar is worth it. Again, Klaus is saying that Varys is a good option for Dragon House for ranged player up to level 39 and is way cheaper than 50 for half the stat. And I completely agree with that. Tyrion is basically maxing out or don't bother. And if you don't want to max out Tyrion, Varys is a really good compromise to have. And if you are running two troop types, such as cavalry and ranged, he's double good because of all his extra cav stats that you get from that. So the next one is cavalry. I should know this one off the top of my head, but I'm going to come back and check it anyway. So with cavalry, Cersei has a level 10 cavalry stat, and it makes me weep that I haven't even unlocked her. So you get 12% cavalry health. It's not a lot, but given that how much it would cost you to get 12% out of research or 12% out of enhancements, it's actually not much at all. It's really good value for money in terms of game spend. And you're also working up that reinforcement capacity by going for that stat. For the next slot, you want to go for Arya. She is insane for cavalry. You basically just want to push her as high as you possibly can, maxing out that sort of cavalry attack versus player. At level 10 you get 31% defense versus cavalry, which is a stat that cavalry actually really lacks. If you are lucky enough to get her to level 40, you get about 48%, 49% cav health. You don't need to, as a cav player, you don't need to get her to 50. 49 is a really good sort of compromise spot for her. So you've got most of her cavalry attack versus player out of that. So she's a really important one for cavalry. For the Master of Coin slot, again, it's going to be Gendry or Marjorie, depending on the orc buff that you want to achieve. These two are pretty much non-relevant for cavalry. And the Spider, Varys, mentioned time and time again about his cavalry stats. You've got cavalry defense, and then you've got cavalry attack versus cavalry. So he is one that a cavalry player will want to work up together with that health bonus. Budget will be sort of going for around level 20 to 40, but if you want to sort of invest a lot, he's worth maxing for cavalry. The next one is the Master of Law slot. This is Hound. Really, as a budget player, the level 10 is realistic. Going for higher requires a lot more spend. So at level 10, which isn't sort of, is just that one pack, that one starter pack, 30% defense is really good value for money. The level 30 stat is quite nice. The level 60 stat is amazing. but that requires a lot of investment, so that is going into big spender territory. If you haven't got Hound, Miss Sunday's Dragon March size is a nice one to sort of work up to, but she is more of a luxury. I wouldn't really spend too much on her. I would focus on trying to unlock the Hound. Again, Master of Ships, there isn't really an option of Cavalry, it's just those two ranged options, so just do what you want with Hodor. Lord Commander, as with range, there isn't really an option for Cavalry, unless you want to be a big spender and max out Barristan. So I've just put in that hero just to fill a slot, just to have something in there. Actually, I could put Benjen, but I do use Benjen in my March, so that's why I haven't had him in council before. And then for Whispers, it's the same again. But Qyburn is the only realistic sort of option. Now, one thing that's nice with Qyburn that I haven't touched on before is at level 30, he has 16% marble cost efficiency, which is really nice if you're also doing enhancements. So the other thing with Cav heroes is that actually Cav heroes have a lot of Marcher heroes. So let me just replace this and you can see what I mean. You have Jaime, who for offensive cavalry attack versus range is really nice. You also at level 30 get 47% cav defense while marching, and then if you're pushing him up higher, you get that 4k march size bonus, which is super nice. His cavalry attack versus player, in my opinion, is not worth maxing out to do that, because you should already have Arya and her cavalry attack versus player, which is in the same slot in council, by the way, 49%. Jaime was 52%, so for 3% difference you are paying several £1,000s to unlock. So I would probably sort of stop Jaime somewhere around 50 plus, maybe just use its speed to get him up and not worry about maxing him out at all. The other option is, if you have maxed out Hound for that cav health, you've also maxed out the exact same stat that Jaime has for 1k less march size. So you're going to have that exact cavalry attack versus range, and you're going to have that cavalry attack versus infantry unlocked. You'll have this march size, 3k march size unlocked. And you can pull him out of this slot, because if you are going offensive with as a high spender, you will want the Sunday maxed and have her in that slot instead, just to make do from her cavalry attack versus players, 40 nearly 50% there. So you are getting the best of both worlds from that. Jaime's still good to push up for his marcher stats, because if you're going against keeps, Hound is still nice to keep in the council. The next marcher hero is Benjen. He's also an infantry marcher hero, but I think you get a lot more out of him for cavalry for sort of low level investment than you do for infantry. I've not spent anything trying to get Benjen, and I've already unlocked his level 20 start. And you can see at level 20 I've got 20% cav death, whereas infantry attack is only 7%. So he does give more value to cavalry players than infantry. Rob is a great hero for cavalry marcher. You want him at level 20 to 29 at least, He is one that I'm really struggling with. You can see that I've got 6.7k. Yeah, 6.7 thousand. That's right. Out of the 13,000 that I need. And I'm really struggling with relics for him. I will get relics for almost any other hero. I mean, as you can see, Benjamin, I'm already 3,000 into the next level. But yeah, he's one that you sort of want to get to that level 20 for that cav attack. So you sort of push up the cav defense as much as possible. Thoros, level 10, cheap investment. If you can get that 30, that's really good, but it's not necessary. The other sort of cheap game is going to be Melisande. I can't remember which hero she came with. I think she came with Jane. So I actually have the relics for her. I just don't have the XP to get her up to level 20. And at level 20 is really nice because you can use her versus creatures, you can use her on defense, you can use her on attack, and it's 22% at level 20. She also gives you some nice march size, so you get 3k march size bonus and a bit of troop health bonus. And okay,
your stream is cut off, I think.
Yeah, let me come back. Sorry, it just keeps doing that.
It's an Apple. That's not new for us.
Yeah, I wasn't having this issue on my Android. It's just a lot easier to sort of work through my screen on the iPad, which is why I'm doing it on iPad, but it was a lot smoother on the Android. So Melisande at level 20, you get 3,000 march size, which is really nice bonus to go with that cav health. And you also get a little bit of troop health at level 20, 3%. And this is why I say that her signature is pretty much useless. You need it in council to be usable. And even maxing her to level 60 is only 18%. That is a hell of a lot of investment to make her usable in council. So I think once you get to level 20, you're pretty much done with her. There's not really much value to her other than that. Her level 10 healing speed is pretty nice to sort of reduce your speed up consumption. Going through. Just quickly go back to the Cavalry Recommendations. I think I kind of covered some of them off as we went along. Yep, so we would say Arya to 49 and not bother with getting Jaime's 60 stat. If you'd already maxed Jaime before Arya came out, then yeah, put him in council when you were attacking, just for the seats in particular. And then the rest is more of the same. I've already touched on Melisande. The rest is more of the same. And again, with defense, it's more of the same. You want to sort of push up Rob as much as possible, and you want to push up Hound to hopefully max. So hopefully that made sense, and it wasn't sort of too much information, not too overwhelming. If you have any questions, please do give a yell out. I haven't really gone for... has it cut out again? Did it cut out again? Go back. Oh my god. I was so excited when they released streaming for iPads. My excitement has been short-lived. Yeah, it was. So what else have I missed? I think I just said about the heroes for High Spender are much more of the same, because Barristan is a sort of all-round defensive hero. Thoros is an all-round defensive hero. The only difference for Cavalry is 100% go for Varys and max them out. So yeah, this is it. Hopefully you, hopefully this made sense. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
When are the next heroes coming?
I think what they will be doing is 2 new heroes every gear set. So the next event should be a rerun event of historical heroes, and then the event after will be new heroes to go with next month's theme. And they do seem to be sort of having the heroes match themes. So when we had the Cavalry month, we had Hound gear, and they released the Hound hero, and Arya obviously accompanies Hound. This month we had the Dragon gear. It was all around Lyanna Stark and her relationship with Rhaegar. Obviously they gave us Rhaegar, and together with Rhaegar they also gave us Duran, who is the Prince of Sunspear, and we know that Lyanna and Rhaegar got married in Dawn, so that's why Duran is the relevant hero for that. So that there is a bit of storytelling with them, and whatever next month's gear will be, the heroes which should, I expect, tie in with them.
It's our holler, so I think maybe it will be the guy with the flaming sword.
I actually have an idea of what the heroes are being planned. I am not sure if he is on the list, to be honest. Let me check.
Well, I guess they are in the files already, so.
Yeah, they are in the files. All they've done is they've named the heroes that will be next. So there was, I think in January, there was a list of 6 heroes that were up and coming. And I think we did actually release them in a weekly preview, say which. No, we didn't, because we wanted to surprise people with our hero reveals. We actually didn't. We didn't reveal. Did I go silent?
Yeah.
Where did you lose me? Oh, this I
I
hate.
don't know.
Rue, can you hear me?